that has not daunted me. But again, we have made this problem because we spent too much over too many years without really providing the revenues to back up our budget bills. And I could get into the details of it, but we borrowed 2 times rather massively in the last 30 years to balance our budgets. And basically what that means is we're borrowing money to fund operating expenses. And anytime you do that, you wind up in trouble because you've kept expenditures high, but you haven't produced real revenues that recur every year to match those expenditures. When you go out and borrow, the next year you've got that same size hole, but it's doubled because you've spent that money, you've kept spending high, but you've not actually raised tax revenues to pay for it.
We could still sell the prisons and the thruway and everything.
Well, we went through all that with
I remember when they tried.
And we did a lot of bad things in New York State. And it should have been obvious to people at that time that we were, in effect, mortgaging the future and not really being responsible in our budgeting. Now when you have a big economic downturn like we've had in the last 2 to 3 years, the problems
chickens are coming home to roost
chickens
now.
come home to roost.
Yeah.
The problems manifest themselves and people say, whoops, wait a minute, we never had enough money to begin with. But now when real revenues have dropped off for the state, the problem becomes so apparent that everyone's saying, whoops, we're in bad shape. And it makes, again, adopting a budget very difficult. But when you have a House that really needs every single vote to enact a bad budget, it's difficult to get that accomplished.
Mort, somebody's trying to get in. You can't take your nap now. Chautauqua County, I mentioned that briefly. We're in a real bind here. What are we going to do? They say there's only 2 ways to raise money. One is through increased taxes, which is, at this point, we're the highest tax county in the United States, they tell us, per capita, or you can get more funding. Now, it doesn't look like any more funding is coming through, so it looks like they're going to have to jump the taxes.
Yeah, I think the factoid you're referring to is we're among the highest taxed in the nation per value of our real property. By other measures, by income and so forth, we're not that high. But be that as it may, the taxes are too high, and I think everyone agrees on that. What they're going to do, my suggestion would be that they make cuts in their costs. And here again, I think the counties put themselves in this situation, and they shouldn't have. Last year, during an election, for the county legislature and the county executive, they took approximately $3 million from their fund surplus, and they made an election year cut in the real property tax levy and rate. When you add those 2 actions together, they've created over $6 million of the shortfall that the county executive is now describing to us. This was against the advice of the budget director and at least one of the legislators, Chuck Nassaro, who said, you shouldn't be doing this kind of maneuver. It's going to come back to haunt you. Well, it has come back to haunt them, and now they're going to have to address that problem. I see that they have moved to do an early retirement program, which I've not seen the numbers on, but which they feel will provide them an opportunity to reduce their costs. But I think before they raise taxes, they really need to address their costs.
They're high. There's no question about it. And of course, we are stuck in that Medicaid bind. We have the highest number of seniors, just about anyway, anywhere in the state. We have an awful lot of people who are unemployed or on social services, disabled, what have you. Our population is dropping. People are leaving. Right. What are they going to do here?
Well, you know, the state did enact a program to cap the Medicaid costs of counties and to assume more of the Medicaid costs of counties about 5 years ago. I think it was 2005. And whereas the county was projecting in 2005 that their Medicaid costs would be $36 million, they still have failed to reach $30 million. They're not even up to 30 5 years later. Part of that is because of the cap and the state taking over more of the Medicaid costs. Among other things, we took over the cost of Family Health Plus. We've also reduced the county's required contribution to the care of elderly in nursing homes to 10%. And that is the largest single item in the Medicaid budget. Consequently, the county is not paying what they claim 25%. They're paying more like 15% of the cost of Medicaid. And yet they are still having a difficult time dealing with it. And it is a large part of the county budget.
Yeah,
But again, I would point out that when the county budgeted in 2005, they budgeted $36 million for Medicaid. And this coming year, I think they will be back to $30 million. Now, their costs never reached $36 million because the year that they made that budget was the year that we actually capped the Medicaid costs and assumed some of the other costs associated.
We got a couple of calls. You want to take a call? Yes. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, what's up?
I have a question, well, a couple questions, actually. One is...
Can you hear?
Hello?
Hold on. I'm just, we were having a little trouble hearing in the studio for Bill.
Oh.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
One is concerning what you were just talking about, and I heard Mr. Parment say that we were supposed to be paying 25%, but we ended up more like 15 and now it's like 10%. How do we get to make that choice? And the other question is about Governor Patterson was not our elected governor, as I guess everybody knows, and he will not have even served one term when it comes time for re-election. And what do you think his odds are of being re-elected?
He's not going to run. That's his odds.
That's a real smart choice, as far as I'm concerned, because I have a feeling he's going to be a one-term, not even a one-term, non-elected.
No question about it.
Governor.
He's not running.
Oh well, okay, that's smart. But as to my other question about how is it that, unless I misunderstood, I heard Mr. Parment say that we're supposed to be paying 15% of it, but we're only paying 10% of it or something. How do we make that choice?
Okay, yeah. I think I heard the question. I am having a little problem hearing. The original division of the Medicaid budget was 50% federal and 50% non-federal. And that's for New York State. What New York State chose to do back in 1965 or 66, when the Medicaid program first was implemented, was to say to the counties of the state, we're only going to pay a half of the non-federal share, meaning 25%, and you, the counties, will pay 25%. And this was done, I think, principally because the Republicans in the state Senate feared that if the state picked up the entire cost, it'd be a huge windfall for the city of New York. And so traditionally we had a division, 50% federal, 25% state, and 25% local. Well, over the years, the counties, particularly in the upstate region, complained about this division so aggressively and continually that the state began to shift the costs. And during the Cuomo years, the cost of the skilled nursing homes for seniors was shifted to the state in the sense that we only required the counties to pick up 10% of that cost. Because that's the largest percentage of the cost in the Medicaid packet, the actual overall cost to the county has now been reduced to about 15%. We've also picked up some other items such as Child Health Plus entirely. And again, so the consequence is that Medicaid is currently funded at a level of 50% federal, 35% state, and about 15% local. Okay. Now, many would like to see us have the state absorb the entire amount. And I voted for that twice, once during the Cuomo years, but the state Senate didn't see it that way. Again, they still feared that New York City would be the major beneficiary and they wouldn't vote for it. And then about 5 years ago, we offered to the counties a swap of sales tax at the local level for the Medicaid burden. And only one county in the state took